Hello, welcome to the Stanley Parable. Particle. You're playing Stanley Parable. Particle. I don't know, we're playing this game. It's really cool. A friend recommended it to me. And wow, look at that. Computerception. We got a computer, and a computer, and a computer, and a computer. Alright, let's begin the game. The end is never the end. The end is never the end. The end is loading. Very slowly. So, how's everyone doing? Lovely elevator music we have. Oh God. Oh, good.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Stanley needs to get laid.
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Looks like I'm Stanley, people.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
I must have missed a
No matter
memo.
how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
And they behind the plant. Wait a minute, that plant looks familiar. This whole place looks familiar. I know that guy. Ooh, it's a painting of a thing. Okay. Better go to the meeting room to meet. Meet and greet. Who's this? Hey guys. Anyone around? Hello.
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
What's the time? Oh, it's early in the morning. Everyone could have not clocked off, could they?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors,
Hey.
he entered the door on his left.
Okay. Oh, look! We should go in here.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
I reckon I should go upstairs to see the boss's office. Dum da dum 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 da 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 da. Hey, blah blah blah. I'm gonna go see the boss. Oh, look at that door. Oh, broom closet. Had an exciting venture one day, and there was a broom. I'm lonely.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
I should have gone to the right. Oh, we're getting fancy up here. Executive bathroom. Let me. Can I go in? I'm not important enough, I guess. Is Michelle here today? I'd like to speak to Michelle. She's not home. We'll just let ourselves in.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number. 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
I reckon I should go check behind the desk. Dum 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 dum.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs.
Oh, look!
Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
4, 5.
Yet
Oh boy!
by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
I'll step into the newly open passageway. There's a dark spot over here. Touchy touchy. Oh, an elevator. But I don't have my safety pass. Let's see what's going on. Click! Yay! Elevator! Elevator music!
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar.
I felt
It
peculiar.
was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
I feel like questioning my job. Stanley
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Probably just a typo. Ooh, press.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself.
I
Did he
wonder
have
what
the
this holds.
strength to find out?
I wonder what secrets this place holds for me, Stanley. For I am Stanley. Click.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
I want waffles.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
I wonder about my emotions.
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
My existence is meaningless.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
I guess I shall dismantle the controls. Click. Yay! I'm gonna press this button because I'm Stanley. Oh, that did nothing. Ooh, I'm gonna stand down here. Oh, big red button! Lame.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Ene, mene, mane, mo. Catch 'em on. I didn't do it.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Yay! We bet this. What? I thought I won. I thought it was Stanley. Am I Stanley's clone?
All of his co-workers were gone.
What's
What
going
did
on?
it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Oh, it's just bit of deja vu, folks. Folks? Who are folks? Am I talking to me or anyone else? This room seems familiar.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
I won't. I remember this. Something's pulling me to the right.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Oh boy, I feel like stopping by an employee lounge just to admire it.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley
Hello.
simply stood here, drinking it all in.
I left my money back in my room.
Yes, really, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
Hey, I don't make fun of you and your bodiless. Great, now I'm hearing voices.
At this point, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Oh, there's a painting I want to look at. Ooh, painting. 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 Oh, wait. Mr. Voicemail wants me to go left.
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
But, there's a big red button overhead, man. I want to press it. Press the big... Oh, well...
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
I'm going downstairs.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
Ah! I'm
Then
flying!
He imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun.
Oh,
and Stanley
wow.
marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself? Believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay. Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.